we can get going. Welcome to Fridays for Future, brought to you by the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition and inspired by Greta Thunberg's climate strikes. Today, our presenter is going to be Allen Webb, but first we have a few announcements. We are broadcasting from the Fall Sustainability Celebration at Western Michigan University Office for Sustainability, located at Michigan and Howard Streets. This is going to be going on from now until 3 o'clock. So there's lots of people out there beginning to celebrate. If you want to join in, please come by and join the festivities. It's a beautiful day out and people are in a great mood. So come join us. Couple of other announcements. Tomorrow, Saturday, between 10 and 3 o'clock, the Kalamazoo Electric Vehicle Association will have their electric vehicle showcase at Midtown Fresh, which is just south of Crosstown on Park and West Edge. It'll be going from 10 to 3. So you want to shop for new electric vehicles, people will be there who own them and they can talk to you about them. On Sunday, day after tomorrow, at Farmers Market between 11 and 4, there is going to be a plant-based party sponsored by People's Food Co-op and Vegan Kalamazoo. There will be samples of food, informational tables, and again, a party atmosphere. So join that group on Sunday from 11 to 4 at Farmers Market. Then there's going to be another Earth Day this year. The Citizens Climate Lobby National is organizing Earth Day Election Edition. In Kalamazoo, we're going to be doing that on Sunday, October 23rd at Bronson Park between 12:30 and 3:30. The other sponsors are the Climate Crisis Coalition, the League of Women Voters, and the League of Conservation Voters. And finally, this coming Tuesday, the Climate Book Club, which is being run this year by our speaker, Allen Webb, will be reviewing the book Warmth, Coming of Age at the End of the World by Daniel Sherrill. That's Tuesday from 5:30 to 7:30 on Zoom. You can find the Zoom link at the KCCC website, which is kalamazoocrisis.org, and just click on books and you will find the link to that. And also that's a good place to see what the rest of the schedule is going to be for the year. So those are the announcements that I have. Is there anybody else who's with us who wants to announce some other event that's going on? Mary Ann, you can kind of look and see if anybody's raising their hand for that.
I actually can't see anybody but Alan and his slides and you, Tom.
I see, it looks like Rick, I can see Rick's hand up.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, I signed KCCC up for a booth at a musical event without any authorization at all. At a farmer's market a few weeks ago, I bumped into the coordinator of this event and just kind of grabbed a slot. There's no cost, no commitment, but it's there. It's October 1st on a Saturday between actually noon and midnight, and you can work any hours you want. So it's being registered as Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition, and we'll have some things out there. And it's gonna be at Bronson Park during this musical festival. The coordinator of this festival, it's a week-long thing, actually. It's being promoted amongst people like contemporary music, trying to enhance Kalamazoo's reputation as a regional music hub. So there's things going on every day, but especially Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if anybody's interested in being at the booth and listening to the music, they can stop in, stay at the booth, leave if they want, and talk to people as they come by. If you want to get more structured, you can. It's no obligation. It's more like an opportunity. If you want to try to reach out to people coming in for music and get the message out. And or if you just wanted to listen to music, it's there. That's all.
Terrific. I'd like to make a really quick announcement too, which is that on this call is Mauricio Dominguez. He's a professor at the University of Yucatan in Merida, and we just got news that he has been awarded, or Western Michigan University has been awarded, a Fulbright Scholar in Residence grant that's going to fund him to come to our campus and to Kalamazoo for an entire year next year. He's a senior writer on the IPCC, report, and we're really thrilled this is going to happen. And it's supported by the KCCC along with other community groups, and he'll be working with us and collaborating with us for that year and helping us understand the IPCC, helping us get a broader perspective on climate impacts and mitigation in the global South. And I'm just beyond thrilled about this happening. This is the first chance we've had to mention this in a public way. So I'm just, but that's a very exciting piece of news. So let me put it that way.
Great. Welcome, Mauricio. We're looking forward to your year with us.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'm very happy that this is happening. So far I know we still have two more like little aspects to fulfill, but it's almost certain that I'm going to be with you, and I'm very happy, and I look forward to participate in your discussions and contribute in any possible way I can to your efforts towards climate change action.
And we'll set up an opportunity to more fully explore that before next year. So, Marianne, without further ado, shall I begin this talk?
Let me introduce you, Alan.
Okay, terrific. I'm honored.
Although probably most people on this call know you or know of you already. Our presenter today is Dr. Allen Webb, who's a Western Michigan University professor of English with I understand a concentration in secondary English education. Is that correct, Alan?
That's right. And post-colonial studies and now climate change.
And he's the author of 9 books and 30 articles, including one titled Teaching Climate to Adolescents, where he was a co-author. It was published in 2017. He's been an outdoorsman, a mountain climber, and a climate activist, including organizing the Black Friday funeral march in 2019, which was a protest against excessive consumerism. So Alan has been active in Extinction Rebellion, and that is his topic for today. So I'll let you take it from there, Alan. Introduce yourself any further if you need to.
Tom, thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you all for allowing me to share some thoughts about international climate activism and in particular Extinction Rebellion. I'm going to, I think, both examine and develop some of the stereotypes and raise questions and create opportunities. And one of the things we're thinking too is we're going to try to revive our Extinction Rebellion chapter. And with the end of the talk, I'm going to talk about how people on the call might like to be informed about what's going on with it can do so. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Extinction Rebellion first. For those of you who may not know a lot about it, I noticed that it kind of merged onto public consciousness in a rapid way in October of 2018 when they blocked 5 bridges across the Thames and took over Parliament Square and superglued themselves to Buckingham Palace, demanding climate action in Great Britain. And this had their efforts had a huge impact in Great Britain and led to all kinds of declarations of climate emergency and legislation and changes. Of course, it became well known around the world and many local chapters formed. I've collaborated with chapters all over the place, including from Italy to Kalamazoo, and I talk a lot about that. Their symbol is a hourglass, and you can see the idea is that time is running out. They have 4 basic demands. One of them is telling the truth. They believe that the government is not adequately informing people about the truth of the urgency of the climate crisis. And they believe also that we must act immediately. Originally in 2018, they were insisting that bringing greenhouse gas emissions down as close to zero as possible by 2025, which is faster than the IPCC is calling for. And they also are trying to, they believe we need to go beyond traditional politics, which they see as not being effective, not only the division between liberals and conservatives in different countries, but also the corruption of the system where fossil fuel companies have undue influence over a lot of decision-making that goes on through traditional politics. I can talk a little about some of their strategies for that. And they also believe that transition has to be just, has to take account of issues of climate justice and fairness. And they have a set of principles that generate their activities. They really want to focus on the impact of climate change on future generations. They want to welcome people of all political perspectives. They believe this is and all backgrounds and all racial groups and so forth. They believe this is a problem we all face together. They utilize a technique called momentum-driven organizing, which I'll talk a little bit more about. They're tremendously involved with art and creativity in their protests and actions, as we'll see. They insist upon nonviolence, which has been a point of some contention, criticism, which I'll talk about. They believe in collaboration with other groups, and they do a lot of work with other environmental groups, other social justice groups, and so forth. They're famous for having done civil disobedience and direct action. I'll talk a bunch about that. They believe that they need to be regenerative and reflective. They need to be supportive of their members. They need to think critically about the way they've acted and find ways to act differently in future that will be more effective. They are determined to avoid blaming and shaming people over the climate crisis, and they want to try to find ways to make action happen rather than simply blaming people. There's a last point that my slide is blacked out, but what is autonomy? Is that it? Yeah. So they allow groups to be able to take their own action as long as they are working within the framework and the principles of Extinction Rebellion. And that's something else that's quite interesting about the group, which I can talk about. They've done a lot of different kinds of theatrical events. I'll be showing examples of that. The civil disobedience has included things like climbing buildings and bridges in ways that's against the rules, to unfurl banners, blocking streets and bridges in front of government offices, and chaining and gluing themselves down, which in different ways, which again, I'll give some examples here. The idea of the Overton window is helpful for me in thinking about Extinction Rebellion. This is not their claim or whatever, because they really believe that we need to start doing politics in a different way. But the Overton window is actually by a guy from Michigan's idea that's become broadly understood, that unthinkable radical ideas can become acceptable and even become policy as social movements and uprisings change the way people understand what's going on in the world. And so this is, I think, from my perspective, at least, a very important part of what Extinction Rebellion is doing is it's helping change the zeitgeist, change the way that people think about the urgency of the problem and trying to address it, which can lead to all different. Right now, some of these things that we're hoping for seem impossible, but this kind of action and activity can make them more possible. I'm going to begin by talking a little bit about Extinction Rebellion in Kalamazoo. And a chapter that formed here that I was a part of. I wasn't the leader of by any means, but it was a very rich group that did a lot of things. And some of you guys are aware of some of the stuff that we did. We had lots of meetings, we had lots of conversations and nonviolence trainings, and we met in churches, in several different churches, and we met in sort of a social activism center and so forth. We engaged in lots of different actions. We did actions in Chicago and participated in actions there, as well as around Kalamazoo. I think at very first we called ourselves Southwest Michigan Extinction Rebellion. Then we just called ourselves Kalamazoo Extinction Rebellion. We participated in actions at the city hall to try to change what was happening with permitting of a car wash, which was we were just one of many groups that were doing that. Then we became very involved with the Fridays for Future event that KCCC organized, and these are some pictures from that event. This is a coffin up above on the left there that showed try to illustrate the danger of what's happening, and we did a street block right next to the Fridays for Future rally. That went on for about 15 minutes, but surprisingly and perhaps disturbingly led to a tremendous amount of media attention. There was a couple articles in MLive, but there was also over 200,000 hits within 24 hours on the information about it that was posted on social media. And so one of the questions is the only way you get action or get attention is by civil disobedience, and that's again a theme that we're going to think a little bit about in the rest of my presentation. But we participated also in city meetings, which is one of the things there. You see the people with the green T-shirts, and we had events we held to try to keep our spirits up in the challenging and morning time that's involved with climate action as well. And Tom has already mentioned this parade that we had. It was on Friday after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, I think it's called, right? Which when there's massive. It's the biggest sales day in the country, and we had carried on a mock funeral for the earth, and we marched along Westnedge Avenue toward the Crossroads Mall, and we carried a giant inflated earth, and we also had the coffin and so forth, and it was actually a lot of fun, but as well as being serious and making a serious point. When we got to the Crossroads, a small group from the parade went inside and laid down and did a die-in, it's called, and again illustrating the urgency of the climate crisis. And there's a clip up above from MLive and the article that was generated from that, which produced, again, a lot of attention. Part of the thing is the strategy of trying to find a way to get this into people's consciousness. And since Black Friday is really a big day in the media and in the news, and people thinking about buying everything, lining up for stores and so forth, the television stations and other media were eager to cover stuff like that. We did nonviolence training, and before we participated in different, like the street block and the tie-in, we did a lot of thinking about how we actually do that. We practiced it and so forth. We had a wonderful night of events, I thought, at the Kalamazoo tree lighting. I dressed up as a polar bear. That's not actually me. I stole that from someplace else, but I was dressed up as a polar bear, a better costume than that one, wearing a Extinction Rebellion label on me, and we had a Rudolph the Green-Nosed Reindeer and a fossil fuel Grinch who had a giant inflated globe, and he carried it over his back, and it said "Big Oil." We had a bunch of other animals that were in risk of extinction that were all there, and then we also had a tree planting that we did. That you can see the sign that we put up about that. When I was dressed as that polar bear, I had hundreds of kids come and get their picture taken with me, and I had conversations with the kids and their parents about climate change and what was happening, what was going on. It was a terrific way to an enjoyable and yet meaningful way to emphasize communicating about the climate crisis with people. And part of what I'm going to be doing here today is sharing lots of different strategies that Extinction Rebellion has used to try to communicate about the urgency of the problem. And some of these strategies are ones that can be used by other groups as well, and that we want to keep working with. But this was a way that I said especially brought children and parents in, which I think that's a very important group to be talking to, isn't it? We also collaborated with other movements and groups here in Kalamazoo. That's Cindy and I at a Black Lives Matter rally with our Extinction Rebellion stuff on, and gear, and other people did the same thing. We also Extinction Rebellion as a group all got the new county ID that was to support the immigrants that are and the undocumented people that are here that use that for whom that ID is really critical. So we were trying to again be involved with other organizations and other efforts as part of the whole idea of the just transition that Extinction Rebellion emphasizes. We also got involved just before the COVID, or actually the COVID was really starting then. We got involved in an issue about following the money with climate change, and there was a national protest against Chase Bank for its funding of fossil fuel development. And so we had a local rally, and we had handouts and things like that in front of the Chase Bank downtown. And that was, again, another theme that we were working on. But we also had, during the COVID, you were not allowed to, we weren't going outside as much as we would before. And elsewhere, maybe you remember the beginning, we didn't really even realize that outside you weren't at too much risk. But so we had an event where people at their own homes had trees talk. So like the one behind me says, "I can't run from climate change, can you?" Or "I'm growing up to help" on a baby tree, or "I'm rooting for the earth." Get it, with 3 roots and so forth. "I sequester carbon, cut emissions, not trees." This was an Extinction Rebellion effort to try to educate people about the climate crisis, again using humor, but art and making some meaningful statements. And this idea of running from climate change, I don't know. I think that's something we have to all think about. And can we run? There's no place off the planet since it's affecting us all. Well, as many of you know, by some lucky stroke, my wife Cindy and I, both of us writing books about the climate crisis in different disciplines, were able to win sabbatical in the year 2020-21, and we went to 2 places, the University of Cardiff and also to Merida, where we met Mauricio and worked closely with Mauricio for the entire time we were there. But in Cardiff, which of course is in Wales, the capital of Wales, there was Great Britain was doing, the Extinction Rebellion in Great Britain was doing a major week-long set of rallies and events, and Cardiff was one of the 3 sites that were chosen in the United Kingdom for that to take place. So it was perfect timing for us in a way. So we fully joined in and participated during that time. And you'll see a few pictures of a couple of beautiful little girls that were there that we ran into. But this is my daughter Lexi. We want to live, holding up the sign there. I'll talk a little about holding those signs up, what they involved. For a couple of weeks before the week of action in Cardiff, they had an informational hub. And one of the things that was kind of neat, I thought, you guys see my talking head there, right? Yeah, okay. Behind my talking head, there are a whole bunch of signs like, "Listen, alarm bells," or "We want to live," or "Winds of change," or "Act now for the sake of whatever." Or a lot of them were also about animals that were in danger of extinction. And what you would do here this is kind of a neat idea, I think. You would take you pick a sign and there were many of them, as you can see, and then you'd go, they had a special frame you would stand up on and take pictures of yourself with the sign and then post it on your social media. And so the question is there a sign here, that you would be willing to be seen on Facebook or Snapchat or whatever different social media you use? And this is one way that they were doing to get people to start using their own social media systems to be alerting others about the climate crisis. And a very non-confrontational, very intimate kind of way, and one that you could use that you could use in a way you'd like. Another thing was they had a place there where you could make T-shirts, and so they had all these terrific different stamps of animals that were going extinct, of statements about the climate crisis, and so forth. And so you'd bring a T-shirt, or you could buy one from them, or we bought one across the street, 2 of them across the street for our kids, and they had a lot of fun stamping and making their T-shirts about the climate crisis and about Extinction Rebellion and so forth. So this hub was one of the things that was going on. The hub was located right across the street from the Barclays Bank, and I was talking to police officers there about, this was Black Lives Matter was going on in the United States, and we talked about what it was like to be a police officer in America and everything else. But one of the climate activists there, who I got to know and have done some collaboration with, he explained to me that there was a reason why that all the police were in front of Barclays Bank. They were afraid of having an Extinction Rebellion hub, right across the mall from them, and so forth. Although, and there were a number of different sort of performance activities that took place, but there was no effort to do anything at Barclays Bank. It's one of the major funders of fossil fuel development, also. But the week really began in Butte Park, which I want to say just a tiny bit about. It's a huge, magnificent park right in the center of Cardiff. It was the former estate of the Butte family, and the Butte family were the family that developed the coal export from Wales. And coal was one of the largest Wales was one of the largest coal sources on the planet Earth, and they became one of the richest families on the planet Earth, made for a while the richest family. And so here, their park was eventually given to the city or their estate was given as a city as a park. And I thought it was really appropriate that Extinction Rebellion was doing their actions here in this park of these people who had, built this gigantic coal infrastructure and made massive, massive profits off of it. Activists came from the city, around the city and so forth. There were meetings and organizational events for a week in the park. Turned out it was like across the street from where we were living. We met this couple, Donna and Stuart, who had 2 little kids. We saw them several different days, and their kids were just younger than ours. And they had been part of that original 2018 activity in London. And they with their small children had spent 5 days on Waterloo Bridge, occupying the bridge. And so it was fascinating talking to them about their experiences and the role with Extinction Rebellion. There were marches every day. And I'm going to play a little, hopefully this will play for you guys. Or did it? No, it didn't. Okay, there's a video there. But the way, oh shoot. The way my thing is projecting is not going to play the video, I guess. It's not, oh well. All right, so you would have seen a really nice video and a very large group of marchers and a samba band that was playing music during the video, and they were terrific and gave a real sense of urgency and awareness to the event. And one of the things that I've come to realize with marches is you really want to have music and drums and other things going on to make that to make the march feel more impactful, I think. Anyway, now can I get back and all right. And this was another video clip that I had about the event and the size of it, the sheer scale of how many people were involved was really impressive. And one of the main things they were doing was that Great Britain was working on a climate and ecological emergency bill that was being proposed in Parliament. And a lot of these activities were designed to raise awareness and push people toward that. So people don't maybe understand that Extinction Rebellion was very involved with actual political laws that were being considered and taking place and so forth. And I think, again, that's an important part of our action as climate activists is to try to coordinate with legislation that's happening locally and nationally and so forth. Okay, you're not going to get to see this beautiful march, but oh well. So I got my pictures. The march included the Red Brigades, which is groups within Extinction Rebellion that dress in these remarkable red costumes. And my understanding of it is part of it is the red is about the blood and the way in which humans share that with all species. And their movements express humanity, compassion, and peace. And they're very slow and graceful, moving around, and they attract a lot of attention. And one of the questions is, how do we, bring this climate crisis to people's attention? Is obviously part of it. And you can see the flags and all sorts of things that they got going on. They painted this on a wall. I think they had permission for that. But it's an important message, obviously, of an orangutan who are very much endangered by the cutting of forests in Southeast Asia. The march went to the Welsh Parliament building, which was a distance from the city center, right on the harbor there, which it turns out Cardiff is one of the most endangered cities in the world by sea level rise, and that was a theme throughout. In fact, they held what they called Extinction Rebellion Beach Party, which was down by the Parliament building. And so you can see they've got, people with life preservers, people that are like swimmers and so forth, but also skeletons and kayakers and all. This was part of the beach party idea, a beach party that was like, our city is going to be turned into a beach because of the climate crisis, and pictures of plants and animals that were going extinct and so forth. I took a picture of this minister who I thought was kind of interesting. He had an Extinction Rebellion T-shirt with a cross built into the XR symbol. One of the things that they did was they painted on buildings all across the city these waves, and it was about 1 to 5 meter sea level rise, and how the line of where the water would end up in Cardiff. And so this particular store would have it over its windows based upon the expectations of sea level rise for coming up. And lest anybody be greatly disturbed by the idea of painting on buildings, they actually did the painting with chalk that they could wash off, and they also cleaned many of them up later. So it wasn't as if they were, I don't know if it's legal to paint on somebody's building, maybe it's not, but it was done with chalk and it was easily removed. So I personally thought it was an excellent way to demonstrate to many, many passersby, the city was full of people, even though it was the pandemic, the danger that they're facing. And they held a drown in as well, that's actually on the left there. I think I'm one of the red Nike shoes, and I think Cindy's nearby. Our girls supported us. They had these real life preservers that everybody put on, and some people were dressed in beach clothes, although it turned out to not be much of a day for a beach party. But it was the silence that went on, and it was moving to be part of. And there were also a lot of media people there taking pictures and talking about these people who are very worried about what's going to be happening with the climate crisis, as all of us are. They did a bunch of chalk work there too, and there are many different, I thought, valuable things to think about that people had written on out there during the Extinction Rebellion rally. It's also called XR. It might sometimes call it XR. One of them was, you'll die of old age, we'll die of climate change. We had our daughter there who must have been about 7 years old at the time, and we drew her outline in chalk around her, and she laid there. And it was kind of moving to me, honestly, to see my own child thinking about what the impact of this crisis is going to be on her. Another very interesting event for this rally, and I'm going to move swiftly here, but was held at the BBC headquarters in Wales. And you can see the sign that the climate coverage was, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, or whatever. A real criticism of the BBC's, failure to adequately inform people about the real risks that the climate crisis is bringing, and what to do about it, who's causing it, and so forth. They did a fabulous media presentation. I think there's a picture there on the left about it. Maybe the next slide has one too, right? So they did a spoof performance here where if this climate bill that they wanted to have passed, they did a performance from 2050, what it was going to be like, things are going to be happening in Great Britain with the climate bill passed. And, it wasn't perfect. There were still, climate impacts, but much better future and much better news reporting that was going to be happening. You can see standing on the dais up there are young people dressed up as, as if they are BBC reporters making a regular news report from Extinction Rebellion. It's the Tell the Truth media, they called it. And then the second part of it was, well, if they don't pass the law, what's going to happen? And then they were giving the news from the future for what would happen there. So there was a big audience. It was a very good way to get the message across, I thought, and a focus on the media and the role of the media. And then I didn't realize this was happening, but at first, and then you could see there were a few people, they wanted to go in and speak to the people, the head of the BBC there in Cardiff, but they wouldn't let them in. And so several of you can see there's some guys with, police hats on back there, but several of them, 5 people or so, glued themselves to the door of the media. And there was a movement all across Great Britain at that time because who is that Australian guy who owns all the media, who's a climate denier? As soon as I said the name, you'd remember who he is.
Murdoch.
Yeah, that's right, Rupert Murdoch. And so some of there were protests that were held in front of different media outlets about that. Then there was another civil disobedience act that took place at an incinerator that was being built in a poor neighborhood, and the idea was they were going to burn all these plastics up, and that there was information about how much this incinerator was actually going to add to the climate crisis rather than help address it. And they built the structure there, and then they occupied it for a while, for an hour, a couple hours, and then they were removed. But it got a lot of media attention, and all these other things are happening. And yet it's the moment in which the police remove somebody from a place that's what the local television stations followed it live. In fact, you can see here, this headline across the top was that the TV stations were there following live at this incinerator site. They weren't there in the same way following the news reports. Then the last day of the event was the biggest rally. It was a climate justice rally in March, and this included that large paper mache elephant up there, which was made out of news articles about the climate crisis and what's happening. And they had again, I have a little movie here, but we're not going to be able to see it, I guess. But it was a huge rally and lots of different groups and people there. And it was organized by Extinction Rebellion, and they were the leaders of it. But one of the things that you see a sign someone's carrying, nationalize the big polluters. And I think that one of the things to think about is how the role of utilities and how in this country we should be thinking about how we manage them differently. Anyway, I'm going to show a couple pictures here of the climate justice march. I took this one young lady had made a sign that says "The Scream of Ecocide," which I thought was a powerful, beautiful painting. And obviously this young girl with her sign. It was quite moving to me to see these people in Wales carrying the sign "Injustice Anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And hopefully we recognize that as Martin Luther King. So, there was Black Lives Matter banners that were happening here in Wales as part of the Extinction Rebellion, organized climate justice march. And I really like the way these people were walking around with these different signs on their backs, in front and back. So they just made a row. They dressed in dark colors. They wore these, and they got a lot of attention. This is I can't show that this movie isn't working, but it's really important. The rally went on the way and stopped for about 45 minutes at the visa office for the UK. And this was because of climate refugees and their concern about climate refugees. In fact, the video, if we were able to hear it, they were announcing a moment of silence for a young man who had just died trying to cross to England across the channel, and he was 20 years old, and he had applied for asylum and couldn't get it, and his body was washed up on a French beach, and that was just days before this rally took place. And they talked about famine in the Sudan caused by climate change and how that was leading to a refugee crisis and victims of police violence and so forth. So this was a very powerful linkage that I think, we in the climate movement want to think about how we make. Extinction Rebellion, we haven't heard as much of perhaps since the time of the pandemic. Certainly, although this was all going on during that time and people all wore masks and everything, but just recently, the XR has still been very active. And there will be on the 29th a UK nationwide bus tour. If I'm not mistaken, there's even rallies going on today in different places. There's here's the things happening in New York, San Francisco, Boston, Berlin, London, Edinburgh, and so forth. And you can't read that until I got out of the way, but a news heading and civil disobedience. This is something from the Yale Climate Change Communication Report that 3 in 10 Americans say that they would support organizations engaging in nonviolent civil disobedience against corporate government activities that make global warming worse. 1 in 5 say they would personally engage in such activities. That's a interesting piece of information. And this is, I think, my last slide, which this is about 3 books that I suggest that are interesting related to the Extinction Rebellion. This is not a drill, is the Extinction Rebellion Handbook. It has lots of short but important pieces about the climate crisis and ways to take action. I really like this book by Mark Engler and Paul Engler about nonviolent action and ways that it can be done both through systems as well as by insurrection type activities of the nature of Extinction Rebellion, which is in some ways following on the heels of all these other movements that have happened, right? And we could list them off, including not only our own civil rights movement, but the Arab Spring and the gay LGBT rights and so many others. This last book, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, is actually not a set of instructions for blowing up a pipeline, but it's an examination of the way in which civil movements work. And one of the things it does is it really challenges Extinction Rebellion on the prohibition of any kind of violence, and including even violence to property. The XR does not do that, but Andreas Malm thinks there may be times in which attacks on things like pipelines, which have happened extensively in the Middle East. And of course, in this country, there's been the Republican states have made very frightening laws about that. So the fuel companies are certainly, the fossil fuel companies are certainly worried about that. All right, I wanted to finish by saying that I am really interested in starting some Extinction Rebellion activities again, and I'd like to invite anybody to write to me if they're at all interested in being on the list to hear about it. And my email is allen.webb, spelled as ALENWEBB @wmich.edu. And I think I can stop the playing of this. I hope I can. Let's see. Can I stop my playing of this? Can you guys speak? I don't hear anybody.
At the bottom of your screen, Alan?
Yeah.
There should be share screen or there should be actually a little bar on the right side of the bar says stop share.
I'm not using I'm using slides as virtual background because I wasn't able to get the regular share, which is why I probably lost the videos. Thank you, Dave.
If you click on the up arrow next to stop video.
I got it. All right. So I know I fully used my time. We started a little bit late and I didn't finish exactly at 12:45, but fairly close. So we didn't get to see my videos, but whatever. They had some nice sound of music. But I wanted to open this up for any kind of, if we have a minute, Marianne, for any thoughts or questions, hey, John, good to see you. So I'm going to put my, I'm also going to put my email address in the chat. Like I said, and many of you have it anyway, if you would like to be informed about what we're doing with XR, I'd love to just send me an email and I'll make sure that you get that information.
I have unmuted myself now, and you can probably hear the music in the background at the Office for Sustainability. So if you want to ask a question, raise your hand. I should be able to see you. Nikki.
This isn't a question. I'm just going to say, as many people as can should join Extinction Rebellion. We're beyond the time of just quietly writing to our Congress people and our state people. Nothing is getting done. And for about 6 to 7 months now, I've been saying, where's Extinction Rebellion? We need them. And I'm really glad you're restarting it, Alan, here, because I think we need activism at this point. We need to start making an impact on people so that the word gets back to the electeds. Just my comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. Steve?
Thank you, Nikki.
Alan, thanks so much for that and for everything that you do around here. I'm going to ask you some questions that I ask students who say they want to repeat a class that they failed once before. Why did Extinction Rebellion Kalamazoo go away? Do you think that the communication or the leadership was just not strong enough, or do you think that the community is not ready for civil disobedience or not open to it? What's going to be different this time?
Thanks for asking that, Steve. The pandemic really was a blow, and it's even hard to remember how topsy-turvy the world was there in the first months of the pandemic. People felt they shouldn't even meet each other. We were meeting, and we didn't really have this as much skill at that point using Zoom and so forth. And so we'd been meeting face to face. Quite a few members were older people, not everyone, but there was fear of the COVID virus too. So that was, I would say that was the main reason why the XR went into a kind of a hibernation here. We did hold a couple of, statewide conversations. The chapter we had in Kalamazoo was the first chapter in Michigan, and we helped seed other chapters both in Lansing and Ann Arbor that came later. And we had some conversations during the pandemic with those. One thing that I would say about the chapter that it struggled with was this issue of civil disobedience and potentially breaking the law. And it's hard to think about that because basically most of us are rule followers. We want to raise our questions and we want to share information and make our case and argument in a polite and very sort of academically appropriate way. Speaking for myself as an academic. And I think one of the things that we wrestled with it. We did training in it. It was I remember taking the first step into the Crossroads Mall to go lay down. I really had to take a deep breath as I walked by the security guards and laid down. And it was quite something. We weren't there for very long, like 15, 20 minutes or something. But laying there on the floor of the Crossroads Mall, staring at the ceiling and realizing why I was there and doing a mock die-in. It was very personally powerful. I'll say that. And I think we left before, maybe the security guards asked us to leave. I can't even remember, but it wasn't like there was very confrontational. But one of the things I really learned in Wales was that there was so much to the Extinction Rebellion movement beyond what the media was showing. The media was just showing these civil disobediences, some people gluing themselves down or occupying a bridge. I would say that it was less than, it was maybe 1% or between maybe 1 or 2 or maybe at the most 3% of people that were involved with the Extinction Rebellion that were doing anything that you would call law breaking, they must have had even permits for their marches because the police were all there in advance. They knew what was happening and so forth. So I think that this fear of doing something that would break the law and the consequences is something that we need to, that those people who are interested in this kind of public protest need to let go of and say, okay, Extinction Rebellion is never going to require anybody to do any kind of action that they don't want to personally do. All the decisions are made, at the personal level. Do you want to participate in this? How do you want to participate? What's the role you want to have? And what do you feel comfortable with? And there are some people who are braver or who have less at stake in some way. I mean, like I've got little children, I got my job, whatever. But who are willing to, block a street or whatever. Having done it once, we've learned a lot about how to do it. I'll tell you one thing: if we ever do it again, we're going to have the first row of cars are going to be driven by Extinction Rebellion people. But anyway, we don't have any risk of any car driving anybody over. But I'm just saying that I think there is a place for civil disobedience, and it can make a lot of impact. We know that in our country as well as anywhere. But there's also an absolute commitment to nonviolence in Extinction Rebellion. Those are the things that I would say. I mean, we during the course of how long we've gone for more than a year, it was there were different positions in the groups and so forth, and I think we really learned. I feel like one thing I really came out of that with is learned how to make actions happen. We spent a lot of time discussing what is the right action, how should we do it, how do we inform, and I think instead by the end we learned how to groups people within Extinction Rebellion could take actions on themselves and not make it something the whole group had to be trying to process at the same time. Anyway, that's maybe more than you wanted to ask, but Dave, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Alan, for a really interesting presentation. I'm curious what points of focus you have in mind, if any, for a Kalamazoo chapter. So would you be are you thinking about specific local entities that a protest would, or an action would focus on? Or are you thinking global or statewide?
Great question, Dave, and thank you for asking that. The first thing I want to say is that I think that actions should be coordinated with other things that are going on. The Extinction Rebellion is likely to be most successful if it's engaged with other actions, other things that are happening. I mean, if there's a global climate strike going on, then it's very relevant to have an Extinction Rebellion event. If there's a national effort to try to address Chase Bank or whatever, I think that Extinction Rebellion can really try to amplify that at the local level, and a lot of media likes that. They know there's a national thing, but here's our local version of what's happening. Do you see what I'm saying? So from the point of view of getting media attention, I think that can be an effective strategy. I think that one thing I learned, as I was sort of suggesting, is that the group will come up with things that feel right to them. And they may be like, one thing that was very effective, we had like, say, 25 people in a room talking about what we're going to do next, and 4 or 5 people put ideas forward. And then you chose one that if you wanted to, what that guy's talking about, I think that's really important. I think that could work well. And then that group went and worked on it and reported back to what they were doing. So if there were, if there was something that you wanted to focus on, find a way to do that. I see Rick has put something in the chat about the Electric Vehicle Association. I mean, even that, or certainly, like, I personally have a concern that a lot of entities have now declared a climate emergency, and power to them for doing so. But what are they doing to follow through with it? And how can Extinction Rebellion point out and raise questions about the follow through on that kind of a thing? But it's not going to be up to me. I'm going to try to be a convener, but it's going to be up to whatever you or others think seems like the right kind of move. And as a member of the KCCC, I think we have a commitment to collaborate in a way that works effectively for for groups and doesn't undermine the KCCC in any way. There was struggle and issues over that with the street blockage. And I don't want that to happen. I want us to be working in a way that's effective. So, I think we made some kind of a commitment at the time that if, for example, if the KCCC has a rally, they don't want to have Extinction Rebellion as part of KCCC blocking the road at the same place or something like that. You know what I mean? But that kind of thing is something that to be smart about and to be effective about, and to be collaborative about. And that's another thing, again, I saw in Wales was just how Extinction Rebellion was kind of the energizer for a lot of stuff, but all these other groups were wrapped into it and working together. And that's how we're going to make a difference.
Okay, we're almost at the end of our time. Thank you very much, Alan, for being willing to give us this great story. We appreciate you being back in Kalamazoo and getting ready to be active again. So let's give Alan a big hand or a peace sign or whatever. I'm in the midst of construction in the back of the building here, so I apologize for the sounds. I would like to remind everybody that the Fridays for Future happens on the second and fourth Fridays of every month at noon. And our next event will be the League of Women Voters and the League of Conservation Voters talking about preparing voters for the election. And again, reminder of other stuff going on this weekend. The Electric Vehicle Association at Midtown Fresh, the plant-based party at the farmers market, and on Tuesday, the book club discussing warmth, coming of age at the end of our world. And you can find the link for that on the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition website. Thanks again, Alan. We appreciate it. And if people want to stick around to chat afterwards, that's fine. But we did say we would end at 1, and it's 1.
Thank you very much.
Please come join us at the Office for Sustainability.
Ellen will, or does.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Mauricio, we're so excited, and you're right. There's a couple of I's that still have to be dotted, but I'm not worried about those, and we'll get together and be talking some more about how we're going to make this all work. So
Thank you.
pretty
Actually,
exciting.
we are going